gonna use a non-Restream alternative. But the non-Restream alternative we had was bad.
It was in fact worse.
Yes, because apparently there was a limited time frame, and our talking before the show ate up some of the limited time frame. So that's annoying. But welcome to another bootleg gospel comics edition. Because we're gonna have to engineer things to make our limited StreamYard's budget work.
I do kind of like that idea though, the bootleg of comics.
Exactly, exactly. Just a second, I have to. So, um, we've saw some stuff. Have you had the chance to see Alien Earth yet, Joe?
I have not. I quite frankly, I am so disappointed, burned out, off put by Romulus and other alien adjacent pseudo alien media that has been put out recently that I have been reluctant to give Alien Earth a shot.
Well, I mean, I did go there, and I did watch the first two episodes of Alien Earth, and I'm not sure how to feel.
Well, I mean, do you feel angry?
I'm
Do you
I'm bef-
feel
I'm
conflicted?
befuddled. So the show opens by discussing the geopolitics of the universe of the Aliens franchise. Everything is controlled by five mega corporations, and it explains what portions of the world the five mega corporations control. And it also talks about the alternative human species, for lack of a better word, that we have going on in the aliens world. So you got your cyborgs. Cyborg is pretty obvious. You got your synths. Synths are pretty obvious. And we've introduced a new category, which led to the creation of a new corporate megacorp oligarch, hybrids, which are synth bodies with human minds. So at first, I want to let you digest that and
Okay.
tell me your feelings about that.
I mean, now I know why people were complaining that it seems like the Aliens franchise forgot that it's about humans and not about androids. I also don't agree with that assessment, but I now understand it.
The fifth megacorp is run by a character called the Boy Cavalier, and he has successfully proven his concept of transferring human consciousness into androids. Now, the research facility is called Wonderland. The lead android decided to call herself Wendy, and everybody's named themselves after the Lost Boys.
I already hate this. Continue.
So these are adult actors performing like 12-year-olds.
For some reason.
Well, no, they were 12 when they got put into adult android bodies. So
And
they don't have the
didn't
mature.
emotionally grow?
Well, it was only a couple of years ago.
I see.
And meanwhile, there's a whaling Utani ship that's crashing to Earth with aliens. Now, the fun part is it's not just the xenomorphs that are in there. There are other invasive species and parasitic species that are in there. And they crash into the territory of the Prodigy Corporation, which is the fifth megacorp, which has invented digital immortality. So, of course, there's a spaceship, it crashes. The security force for Prodigy goes in to recover it. And there's some little corporate politics going back and forth. But Wendy says, "Hey, boss, put us in. Put my team in. We can deal with whatever that invasive species nonsense is." But of course, Wendy has a secret motivation. Her human brother is working in one of the units of the paramilitaries that work for Prodigy. He's the medic. So she wants to go in and recover him.
God, I hate that trope. Not the idea of family, the idea of everything happens to a very small number of people. I remember years ago I was reading a Wolverine comic, and literally in the back matter, somebody had used the letter as an opportunity to promote their fan fiction idea, and said, "What if Sabretooth and Wolverine were brothers?" Which turned out to be true because X-Men Wolverine Origins happened, that piece of shit comic. But it's basically this arbitrary idea that if you make everyone related or everyone have connected emotional context, that it somehow translates to a deeper, more gripping narrative. It's like, do we need a more gripping narrative? Do we need deeper than I did these things because I selected for to do these things? It's just lazy writing, which is a common note we're going to be talking about tonight.
We sure are. So now I bet you're asking yourself, well, why is he sending these multi-billion-dollar platforms that have the digital souls of dead children in them into this very dangerous thing? Why did he invent digital immortality? Was it to make perpetual consumers?
Well, more importantly, I'm actually thinking, isn't digital immortality cool enough? Does it need to does it need to have a deeper reason? Yes, obviously he's going to make money off of it, and he's going to make money off of people being alive forever. But the fact of the matter is, you have digital immortality. Questions of whether or not it's a good idea just went out the window because you've already done it. By that logic, I even think you can make the argument that this was done better in the Takashi Kovacs books,
Yes.
which got their terrible altered carbon Netflix
I mean, the
versions.
first season on Netflix wasn't
First
terrible.
first season was very close to the actual original material, but the thing is, it was also dealing exactly with this idea. Okay, we have digital immortality. Well, what does that do to your soul in the long term? It wasn't good for you, is the answer.
So
Um,
the boy Cavalier has his
but
answer
then
for
but
why
then
he
we now
invented this. His reason for
okay.
inventing this is he wanted to talk to somebody smarter than him. So he gave these dying children supercomputers for brains to see what they do with them. And that's the reason that happened.
That is a reason. It is not a good
It's
reason.
certainly not a good reason. And he became the youngest trillionaire by building to this technological development platform.
I mean, that's the most believable component of this idea.
And he gained control over Australia, Indochina, and certain other territories, which were Wayland Yutani adjacent.
Why?
Um,
Why?
because all of the people who control megacorps take over part of the world. It's just the rule they have.
Yeah, see that is also ass.
Hmm. And they also have off-world colonies.
In some fiction that I have been working on, I can't give everything. Uh, that because I've more or less been working on it in various forms or variations of theme for
Hmm.
decades now. I just make the argument when it comes to, well, how did Megacorps take over? They just took the mask off, right?
Hmm.
The implication being that corporate interests have been subverting our electoral experiments for decades. And at a certain point, it just you no longer need the government as a mechanism to hide what you're doing, right? That makes sense to me. But the idea that it's like, well, I'm a megacorp, I guess I control this segment of the planet. That's like, again, lazy. That seems really half-ass.
It's made to avoid resource wars and shit like that.
Which will happen anyway because other people have resources you need. If I created digital immortality, which means I need digital
Hmm.
components, I am now going to go to war with Africa because I need the rare earths and other
Hmm.
materials that you can only get in
Hmm.
Africa. Now, you tell me, okay, well, there's space travel. It's like, cool. So I'm either at war or in alliance with the space travel megacorp because I need access to those same rare earths and digital elements in space mining,
Hmm.
right? But this leans towards the idea that you don't get five megacorps on planet Earth, you get a consolidated single megacorp on Earth.
Hmm.
And back in old Aliens lore, that was basically it. We basically understood Wayland Yutani owned the planet. Right?
And
Because the idea was that our government had become essentially an affiliate, a tributary to the
mhm,
megacorp.
absolutely. But you remember when Aliens was good? When it was about a bunch of space truckers who found something way above their pay
Uh,
grade?
yes, I also know that I know a bunch of people who seem to think that Alien stopped being good as soon as it had Space Marines, which I think is a bad argument.
I th-
Sorry, Razor Fist, you are wrong.
I think James Cameron's worked out well. I think Alien 2 worked well.
Yeah, here's the thing. I am a weird person in certain circles. I like Alien 3, even though it was a mess, and I think Alien Resurrection was not bad. I think Alien Resurrection has some problems. I think it's cheesy as hell, but I think it had some solid bits. All right, the idea that eventually in the future Wayland Yutani is going to go down, and we're not going to have that silliness anymore, and that uh, you know instead of a bunch of space marines, our guys with guns are a bunch of basically space pirates looking for work is solidly well done. There's nothing wrong there.
But yeah, that's
But there are people that seem to think that's a crime.
but yeah, that was Alien Earth. And it also is similar in a lot of ways to the failure of the Terminator franchise because it thinks people are actually interested in, what happens when the Terminators are overrunning Earth. When in actuality, you're not. Because nothing interesting comes of that. There's
Well,
nothing.
I will use a witticism that I have argued about before, which was not popular because, well, we're talking about our friends and relations who are children. Uh, I did not like the idea of the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Mhm.
Why did I not like the idea of the Sarah Connor Chronicles? Because it's TV,
Mhm.
right? They couldn't have a male Terminator mentoring John Connor, a la Arnold,
Mhm.
because somebody would have said that's gay, and that doesn't sell good, and that doesn't make good metrics. They said, okay, what if we do something daring? Okay, what if they send back a female Terminator? And then and it's like, okay, well, what's the dynamics here? Because Sarah Connor's the mom, right? And it's like, oh, well, she's like a angry big sister,
Mhm.
right? And I always said the same thing. I don't want to see John Connor get 15-year-old boners for a Terminator. Because we know that John Connor is supposed to grow up to hate the machines,
Mhm.
right? The adversarial nature of man versus machine is quintessential to the Terminator storyline, right? So even though there are actually good things in it, like I'm kind of tickled at the idea of a Terminator that accidentally got sent back to the 1930s and basically walled himself up in a building's foundation to wait until he could go live is kind of neat, right? But ultimately, uh, it's not a show anyone wanted. That's why the series failed, right?
It is. It is.
As you, and I by abstraction, I think we can say nobody wants what Aliens Earth is putting down. The question is, since you watched it, is what Aliens Earth is putting down bad?
I think this would have been better if we stripped the alien stuff off of it. The story of a cadre of the first humans to achieve digital immortality and a powerful megacorp guy, giving them the opportunity to develop, kind of like Westworld, but instead of being a theme park, they're actual people that exist in the world with humans. I think that would have been a much more interesting idea.
Well, not to segue out of this conversation, but I think because it's pertinent, I have to bring up another piece. Uh, is that not the same feeling we had about Red Sonja?
Yeah,
This film that was not Red Sonja because it was basically a post-apocalyptic barbarian adventure
I
story.
mean, in fairness, though, Howard's world building is such that they are post apocalyptic.
Yes and no and yes, but yes. He said, sounding very non-committal. Uh, I don't think of Howard's work as post-apocalyptic, but I mean, you could have made this Red Sonja film into a female-led Thundar the Barbarian, and nothing would have changed.
Well, I mean, I think this would have not worked as a Thundar.
Right, but you see what I'm saying? Like Thundar is just Conan in a Gamma world setting,
It's Gamma World
and we
Conan.
all
It's
know it.
Gamma World Conan with a lightsaber,
Yeah,
and that's
this is not me. This is not me shit talking Thundar the Barbarian. Thundar the Barbarian's awesome. People should see it if you've never heard of
it's
it.
awesome because it's Conan the Barbarian in a Gamma World setting with a lightsaber. Those are
Absolutely,
all positives.
absolutely.
And his best friend is also a barbarian. It's like a weird cyber organism, Wookiee, and he's got a wizard who's a woman. So it's wonderful. Thunder's wonderful. But
Well, remember, Larry, we recently told today, by God, that you are not allowed to have fun with non-humans in your adventure setting.
yeah, yeah. But what was interesting to me is something I found out about the Red Sonja movie. The director is
Mm.
trans.
I mean, here's the thing. I understand that is a important point for something you were about to say, but I wanna make this clear. I don't give a shit, and I didn't know it.
Well, no. Just hold on here. Let me thread this in. This
No, no,
this
I'm gonna let you cook.
this was the same director who, prior to transition, made the Solomon Kane movie.
See, here's the thing. People were saying that, and then they were trying to say, "Yeah, she's responsible for that same piece of shit that was Solomon Kane." Whoever said that, you're a fucking liar. The Solomon Kane movie was gold, and they were fucking robbed. That movie deserved better.
But what I'm saying is, if you look at this from that lens of analysis, that actually becomes very interesting,
Oh, sure.
which is part of why I brought it up. Another part of that is her being trans and the Red Sonja movie coming into being in the age of Trump. affected some of her perspectives.
And some creative decisions we can assume.
Like, she didn't come to the premiere of the movie, which not that many people did because they dumped it like an abortion. Um, she didn't come to the premiere of the movie because she was afraid that Donald Trump was going to send her to El Salvador to be put in the gulag.
Yeah, I lived with some radical crazies for a while. We do what we have to when we don't have a lot of financial options, and they were assured that the camps were coming, that we were off to the gulags, and I actively had said the entire time, it's not going to happen. This is never going to be a problem. What are you talking about? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. It's now Trump 2 Electric Boogaloo. And you know what? There are still no camps. They are still not trafficking people off to be taken behind the chemical sheds. And it's like, oh, but ICE. It's like, okay, that's not targeting trans people. That's not targeting any of the other subgroups that you're talking about. It's specifically going after illegals. Now, do I like ICE's existence?
Mm-hmm.
No. Do I understand why it's there? Yes, it's there because there's a real problem that exists
But
that people are no longer willing to deal with.
back to this particular thing. So
Yeah.
most people don't know is that Red Sonja was originally a Marvel property. It was created during the very long period of
Well,
time Marvel had Conan.
let's clear up that confusion just because I'm a lore junkie. There's a Red Sonja. Enunciation is difficult because one of them has a J, one of them doesn't. The one without a J
Mhm.
was a Howard creation
Yes.
from a story called The Shadow of the Vulture, but is a warrior woman in. She's not in Vienna. They're in a city on the
Yeah.
way. But in the era of the Ottoman invasions of Poland, okay, and she's a mad woman who claims that uh the Sultan's favorite is her sister. Sworn violent vengeance against them. Um, that Red
And of course,
Sonja has never been in film and probably never will be.
and also there's Red Agnes, who recently dipped into Marvel Comics,
Right.
and they're working out the finer details for her to dip into Titan Comics to join that whole little Conan ecosystem over there.
Yeah.
So, so these characters existed in Howard's fiction, but it was Roy Thomas, I believe, who created Red Sonja in Marvel
Pretty sure.
Comics in the 70s
Pretty sure.
because they knew Conan was popular at the time and they wanted a spin off character that would work.
Right. And very much like She-Ra, it's what if Conan but for girls, which is a good economic investment, even if it's not necessarily a great notion.
But ultimately, Red Sonja had to get licensed out and sold out to other players because once Marvel lost Conan, having a Conan spin-off property becomes untenable for you as a publisher. So Red Sonja's bounced around Dynamite, Boom, and IDW. She's been all over. She's had all sorts of different people.
Yeah.
Gail Simone's written Red Sonja a whole bunch. Rune and I are familiar with the Marvel Comics Red Sonja,
And which is basically also the original film Red Sonja from the first movie with Bridget Nielsen.
although they kind of screwed up some of the details in that one,
Absolutely. Because they really wanted to make another Conan movie and Arnold wasn't into it.
which I believe realistically made sense because he had zero chemistry with Brigitte Nielsen.
I mean that, but also Arnold wanted to do other things and not get typecast as Conan, which is funny considering he more or less has been typecast repeatedly as big guy. he has done some really interesting movies since, but it took him a long time to get to do movies that weren't I'm Arnold and here I am being Arnold.
So
Uh,
the gist of what I recall from the original Red Sonja origin is she was a barbarian woman. Bad guys destroyed her village. She swore vengeance. She took up the sword, murdered people, became a sellsword, as the trope from Game of Thrones has become popular in the fantasy genre.
mm.
Is that the
A,
gist of what you remember for Red
well,
Sonja?
so there's a key element that needs to be noted that is mishandled a lot because it's mishandled in the Bridget Nielsen one. Various functions keep trying to make Red Sonja into Wonder Woman, right?
Yes.
That the gods have ordained her to be powerful unless she lay with a man. That was not Red Sonja's problem. Red Sonja was a warrior woman, and her shtick was not she didn't need no man. It was she wasn't no man's doormat. Okay, so the trick to Red Sonja that Hollywood and television cannot handle is that Red Sonja does not just wear a battle bikini and swing a sword, but Red Sonja wears a battle bikini, swings a sword, is hard drinking, hard playing, and does regularly sleep with men of her own volition. But she's not Mary material. You don't take her home and marry her. She's not interested in flowers. In fact, you can leave before she wakes up. She won't care.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Right? She was
But
very
that
much
is
she was very much the woman of she'll walk into the bar, drink a bottle of something, and then grab a guy and go, "You," and he's the lucky one that night. That was her personality.
now that is something that's outside of the current ethos of Hollywood.
Yeah,
The ethos of Hollywood has somebody who says, "What we can't just have Blade dress in leather and kill vampires,"
right.
which is one of the dumber things I've ever heard.
Well, well, because that's the thing is let's compare the two really good movies for a moment, or the good movie and the more contentious subject of our conversation. You have a movie, you say Solomon Kane is a good guy who does good things for good reasons because he has had a religious reawakening, right? And it's like, okay, so what is his story? Solomon Kane rolls into town, finds evil, raises sword, fights evil. Done. No notes. Rinse, repeat. 1,000 films. $1 million. Quite
Mhm.
frankly, I think Solomon Kane would work really well, as would many original Howard works. If you're going to focus on being loyal to Howard as a series,
I
limited or
mean,
long running.
the popular joke about Jack Reacher being Conan but set in a modern setting, you could do a version of Solomon Kane that's basically supernatural,
Yeah, absolutely.
and it would
Um,
100% work.
but with that in mind, you're right. We can't have in modern media a story about warrior woman rolls into town, takes job, kills bad guys, makes money.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
The thing is that we could at one time, because I think the actual best example of this storytelling format, and there are other series as well, Rockford Files and whatnot, but the very best version of this storytelling format is technically also superhero media, but we don't think of it as superhero media because it's well before the narrative of the 2000s 1999 superhero bubble, where it's like, oh, Blade was the first real superhero movie, or if if you want to push it back a little bit, well, Batman was the first dark superhero movie, or if you want to go even further back, it's like, but Superman in 78, The Incredible Hulk,
Mhm.
Lou Ferrigno, Bill Bixby's Incredible Hulk is the
Oh,
proof that you can do a story about hero rolls into town, finds problem, deals with problem, rolls on to next town by episode end, and it lasted 5 seasons.
I mean, what was that show Michael Landon did where he was the angel? Fuck, you remember the show where he was the angel and he wandered around helping people?
I'm trying to remember. Not. Oh, you mean Stairway to Heaven?
Highway to Heaven.
Highway to Heaven.
Yeah, so you just do it like that.
Well, well. To be fair, even as we just said, you can do it. I don't know what the problem is. To be fair, they've tried to do it and done it badly. There was not Desperado, Outlaw. There was a
Yeah,
one with a long haired dude on a motorcycle. They tried to give The Crow a TV series where he'd do the same thing. Uh, to varying levels of success. We were talking there the other week about Highlander. Highlander was technically a every week we're in a new town, every week there's a new immortal threat kind of show.
and that was this very successful syndicated show.
But in the with the fullness of time and reverse viewing, is it good? Yeah, it wasn't bad, wasn't great. um, but I mean, quite frankly, Howard is an abused property. In fact,
Mhm.
I'm gonna do a deep cut. I'm gonna do a deep cut because I'm sure I might be the only person who remembers this. So let's take a walk. You remember Xena? Everybody remembers Xena.
Mhm. Mhm.
You
Mhm.
remember Hercules, the Legendary Journeys. Everyone remembers
Mhm.
Hercules, even if I
Mhm.
fucking hate that show worse than I hate Xena. Um, everybody
Well, I mean,
remembers.
I mean, Xena had a better actress than
Right.
Hercules had an actor.
Well, everybody remembers Andromeda.
Mhm.
Some people remember Cleopatra 2525, which was trash, but I
Yeah,
remember it. Some people remember Jack of All Trades, which was also trash, but it had Bruce Campbell being ridiculous.
and it had a really good opening song.
And some people, and I'm going somewhere with this, remember Mortal Kombat, the TV show.
Hmm.
Do you remember Beastmaster had a TV show?
I do.
All right, now here's the deep cut. At the same time that the Beastmaster show was on, and this is why I remember it, because it was the same time slot block, what have you. Did you ever see the Conan TV show?
I have only seen clips of it on YouTube.
It is so awful. I mean, there's also the cartoon, but we're not talking about the cartoon. We're talking about live action for the moment. Um, the guy they got to be Conan, I will grant, looks the part. He looks like a Frazetta painting. Okay, but they got a guy who was not a first language English speaker, who was one of the slaves, like a prominent secondary character in, was it Rome or Gladiator? I want to say Gladiator,
Hmm. Here's Gladiator.
right? And the only thing I remember about that show is that every time he supposedly took a drink, he basically threw more fluid at his face and on his chest than ever actually met his mouth. Because they wanted to
Yeah.
show off his pecs. It was the most bar- Conan the Destroyer like television since Conan the Destroyer. It's actually worse than Cole the Conqueror, which is halfway decent for a bad movie. And I bring
So
this up because basically, for whatever reason, when it comes to Howard, they just can't, they keep trying to reinvent the mix. They can't just let Howard be Howard. Because what, Howard is not, uh, he's problematic now, I guess?
I mean, yes, but who cares?
But well, yeah, here's the thing, though. Let's be honest. We're not saying you have to do Kanan. Okay, you don't have to do his historical western about the fears of a African uprising. We're not saying you have to do Veil of the Lost Women. Okay, which is really a pretty dark Conan story that puts him in a pretty vile light as a character, right?
Which was,
Why?
I would say, Veil of Lost Women was actually almost out of character for Howard's Conan.
Well, I mean, again, because interesting factoid, I don't recall even if that's actually a Howard or if that's a pastiche, because so many of his partials have been rewritten, right?
Hmm.
To not be Howard essentially. Um, but why can't we just have a Tower of the Elephant? Why can't we just have rogues in the house or God in the bowl?
I mean, a Tower of the Elephant movie would be amazing, and it wouldn't actually cost a lot.
It wouldn't. And there's that amazing animation. Have you seen it?
Yes,
Yes. We
but
almost we I just want to mention this. We almost had a Red Nails with Ron Perlman as the voice of Conan.
that would have
I
been
will
great.
never forgive the guys that canceled that project.
But back to the
Right.
movie we're talking about.
Right. Back to Red Zone.
And the reason we went on this long little diatribe here is because there's not a lot to this movie, which is an embarrassment to the production. So it's quest for the goddess, right? It's all about the male and the female pursuit of the goddess, the pursuit of the divine knowledge. And Sonia, even though she's a barbarian woman, she's representing the civilizational values of the home. And the bad guy, who's the man, is representing all of the conquesting and vanquishing sources of divine knowledge. And they're both afflicted war orphans.
I mean, this also riffs on that late '90s thing that I despise, uh, where we have basically beneficent eco terrorism versus aggressive industrialization. I'm not going to say that industrialization does not have its evils; it absolutely does. But I'm sorry, there is nothing special or mothering about Mother Nature. Nature's so beautiful and kind. It's like this is the same nature that has cordyceps mushrooms. Ants have warfare. Apes do prostitution. All right,
And Australia has two different spider seasons,
right.
including the season where spiders sometimes fall from the sky like rain.
Yeah, really. Nature is sometimes equally as horrifying, if not more so. To say that it is natural and therefore it is good is a lie.
Well,
Um,
it's malicious reasoning.
now,
And so the movie opens with Sonia going out to commune with the goddess and find knowledge and spiritual fulfillment in the woods. And this is where the movie really I have my problem with it because this is our point where we need to give a shit about Red Sonia and we don't.
well, let's let me put a fine point on it for the people. Not that I think anybody's watching, but we'll hope there's the people. Um, you have option A, the bad guy, the war orphan, who has struggled and suffered, frankly, but has consumed basically the evil that has corrupted his life and become an aggressive conqueror and is all the nasty. Okay, but he's ostensibly fighting back against the system that has harmed him by using that system, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So then we look at Red Sonja. The same bad thing happened. Spoilers! The same horrors occurred to her. But rather than that basic thesis from the original description of Red Sonja that we just gave a few moments ago, where she goes, I will have my vengeance, or I will protect others so that this does not befall them, or I will take up arms against a world that is against me because I will not again be found wanting or weak, right? Her response is, I'm going to go into the woods. I'm going to frolic with the trees. I'm going to be one with the forest because I am Hyrcanian and feel a deep personal connection to the trees and the mother goddess. This is not the aspiration of a hero, and this is more importantly not the aspiration of a character, right?
Yes, she is extremely passive.
Passivity is death in fiction in many ways. Now, I don't want to read too much into something because, like I said, I didn't know. All right,
Mhm.
but After I found out that the director was the same director from Solomon Kane after they had transitioned, I cannot help but wonder if some of the thematics and concepts at play here are a broader conversation about coming to recognize in yourself your own transsexual awakening, right?
Yes,
Because everything that's
but
male is evil, and the male is only evil because he's in sort of denial. That's why it's not coded, people. He's gay as a $3 bill. He is
mm,
super
mm,
queer, all right?
mhm.
And then on the other hand, it's not just that we have Red Sonja, a female, okay? But if Larry and I had this conversation, we said if you were gonna do a Red Sonja movie, you want a Ronda Rousey, you want a Janine Garofalo, you want someone who, if they flex, there's muscle in their limbs, or they're lithe and flexible and believable in combat. You need someone who can do choreography, right?
And the director said she didn't want that kind of person.
Right. What she got was a not unappealing woman. She's not ugly by any stretch, right? But she is both flat in the proverbial sense and she's kind of flat in the literal sense, right? Not just no boobs, which shouldn't matter. Like I could do with a flat-chested Red Sonja, okay? I can even do with a no ass Red Sonja, and this Red Sonja has no ass, right? But she's
I
just
mean,
like a human meat tube. There's no muscle. There's no believable strength in her body. And then you double down with that she has no will in her projection, no charisma, right? So she's
mhm.
flat emotionally and she's flat physically, and she just walks through or moves through her scenes very by the numbers. And this is what, just the exception of we're gonna the acceptance we're gonna deny our male truth to accept our female identity, and our female identity has to be reflective of ourself, which is not necessarily going to be the supermodel ideal. Is that the actual drive you want to go with there? Because I don't think you should.
That was not an optimal choice. No, not at all. And you would, of course, with the villain who's gay as a $3 bill. It's all about like you said, it's about coming to terms with your own transsexual identity and awakening. And so she kills the male self and buries it like a dead name, if you will.
Well,
And
let's double down on that. Let's expand to the other thing because we haven't mentioned this to the people. So there is a female villainess because you need a female who can fight your female character,
that's the
because
rule in Hollywood.
a female fighting a male character and getting her ass kicked would be a problem. And I want to be very clear that, like, you can have, say, what's her name in Demolition Man fight a
Sandra
woman
Bullock.
and it's believable, or you can have was it also Sandra Bullock in Judge Dredd?
It was.
Okay, yes, I'm not losing my mind. You can have the fight in Judge Dredd where the evil
Or,
doctor fights Sandra Bullock,
or
um,
quite frankly, Angelina Jolie in the Tomb Raider
or
movies
Angelina
worked.
Jolie. Right. Those fights worked because those actresses have the physicality to sell what they're doing. Okay.
Mm,
They dug up this actress, and I want to say that I think I had seen her in the original Blade movie, much younger. Okay. And she's doped out of her mind as a character. Uh, so she spends the entire movie never fucking blinking. Okay, she just
yeah,
just this dead fish stare. And the idea is that she's a barbarian, or she is from some barbarian people. She's a fellow survivor from the slave pit to the villain, who is his protector, his lover, his confidant, and she is troubled. She is ravaged by the ghosts of people she has killed, right? And so she's taken drugs to cover it up, drugs that her male confidant has provided, right?
So
Except it is okay.
let me shatter your thing.
Okay.
So, what you most likely remembered seeing her in was a little
Okay.
TV show called Krypton.
I didn't watch Krypton, so I didn't see her.
Uh, she was also played in a Batwoman TV series.
Didn't watch that either.
She also was in the TV show called Royals.
Didn't watch that. I have.
Well, well,
I may have never seen this woman before.
she
Uh,
was also in the Jekyll and Hyde TV series made by Stephen Moffat.
I didn't watch that, and I'm so glad I didn't watch that.
Yeah. So
Uh, but here's the thing. I want to be very clear. The actress is not bad. I actually think she understood her part very well.
I
Uh,
think with red hair dye, she would have been a much better
she
Red
would have
Sonja.
much rather Red Sonja. And she obviously wanted to actually do the fighting, whereas the one scene where she and the Red Sonja fight at the beginning, it just turns into a cat fight. It's very classic. It's very unpleasant, hair pulling and screaming. And but here's the thing. We were talking about the themes and the undercurrents running through this. I find it very interesting that it is revealed in the 11th hour. Spoilers for a movie you're not watching. That her male confidant, who is the stand-in for the director's own discomfiture with their masculinity, has been lying to and manipulating this person from the outset and drugging them so that they have these visions, so they can be controlled, right?
Mhm,
And so when
mhm.
he is actually killed, it is not Sonia who ultimately kills him, and he's forgiven for all of his sins because we buried him in Hyrcania like one of us. Uh, it is in fact his female companion who he dual murders, right? So she is also representative of that discomfiture, right? So we have our evil male half, we have our anxieties, and we have our idealized female half, which is not an idealized physical self, but it's just kind of an idealized mental self, right?
Mhm.
And this is literally about the death of the creator in stages, right?
It's
Our
weird.
anxieties and our male half killed each other, and now we are free,
And we also have to deal with the fact that the villain is also very passive. He's
right?
just looking for a MacGuffin.
Well, here's the thing: they actually set up more than once and a halfway interesting idea, but then they never fully explore any of it, which is another problem with the overall film: the lack of a centralized theme, right? So this guy, using ancient knowledge, has discovered free energy. They're making electricity in an ancient world context. That's amazing. But they don't explore it and they don't present it well, right? He
You don't find
has
out there are lights until the power generating system is knocked out.
right. He has mind control components for beasts, dangerous beasts. In fact, they set you up that he's going to unleash that giant scorpion several times in the movie, and then they never fucking do. They give us a goddamn cyclops instead. I
Hey,
want
now
that. I want that two-tailed scorpion, man.
in fairness, though, they were at least paying homage to
Ray
the
Harryhausen,
old Ray Harryhausen. Yeah,
which
yeah,
yeah, I credit. But then they have this plot line that they just drop, where it's like he keeps trying to apply it to humans and it's not working. Right?
yeah. Hmm.
It would have been so good, had they done a Beastmaster. Right? Why do we have to
Hmm.
go Beastmaster? People who haven't seen Beastmaster, or it's been a long time and you haven't seen it. So the villainous Zed, who is a religious fanatic, right, conspires to take over the kingdom, right? And the Beastmaster must stop him. But you discover not only is he supported by the barbarian Jund, who are these terrifying horse riding marauders led by a dude in a bat helmet who you never see his face, right? But through a series of chemicals and occult rituals, Zed is making an army of degenerate berserkers with glowing green eyes. They live for murder. They have no context for speech. They are humans turned into animals covered in armor and spikes. And it is so metal. Right?
Yes.
This villain doesn't do that. They don't present that he actually has a abject desire and need to control everyone and everything. He's
He
just a
just
fiddly little gay man who just wants everything to be right. Why can't things just go my way? Wah. I was
also
prophesied.
if you remember, he was also the fiddling little gay man in the Umbrella Academy.
I didn't watch the Umbrella Academy, so I don't know. If
Oh,
here's the thing, if he's an actual gay man, I don't care. He's doing well with the material he's got. Unfortunately, the material he's got was ass.
but we want to go into the next major problem is do you like gladiator movies, Timmy?
Do you like movies about gladiators? You
So there are
ever been
several
to a
problems.
Turkish bath?
There are several problems with the gladiator section of the movie, which was the entire second act, basically. And the problem is they didn't understand how gladiators worked, and they clearly were riffing off the Roman model. There were other cultures with gladiators, but they were riffing off the Roman model. And so, since you are clearly aping a specific historical model, you need to understand how that works. And it works by these are extremely valuable pieces of property that are people, and we in our modern society don't approve of people being property, but
so,
we're not talking about a modern society in this movie.
so there are three things that stood out to me in that section. Two of which I mentioned in our conversation, or one you mentioned and the other one I mentioned. The first is there weren't enough people in the stands.
No,
It was a very small arena at the center of the city, in a high part of the city, meaning it was only for the king and his friends. Um, and it had what, a dozen total people in the
yeah,
stands, right?
they
This
didn't
is
even
not
put
the
some extra CGI extras in either, which is weird.
yeah. This was not big enough for the scope of this is how I control the people is with bread and circuses. But then the other problem is I want the people to imagine this. Use your imagination. I know it's hurt by the internet. So you have the seating in a semicircle, and you have this huge statue construction around it, like a pair of arms hugging it to its breast. And there is a gap between the hands that is a barren fucking cliff face in the middle of a city. Meaning that if you go over, there's nothing to catch you, as far as we can tell. There's no river at the bottom for you to land splooshin and maybe live. There is flat fucking rock, assuming you don't just land on somebody's rooftop,
Well,
right?
one of the named NPCs did climb back up, so
Right,
it's
but
probably not completely flat.
but we have no idea how, and it's basically just an acquiescence because he's supposed to be the love interest for this non-romance, this nomance, right?
Hmm.
But here's the thing: as Larry said, these people are expensive property in a setting that believes people are property. That doesn't just apply to people, okay? Every creature you send into the arena had to be captured from somewhere and purchased and fed and maintained, right? Every warrior has to be fed and maintained and trained. All of these things are expenses. The arena itself has to be cleaned, sand replaced, torches updated, and so on. At one point in the film, the villain has discovered that Sonya knows some secret he wants, and he decides he can't just imprison her, can't just give her to his torturers. can't just do any of the awful things he absolutely could that would be fit for a Red Sonja story,
Like,
right?
hey, wouldn't this be the time that putting all the control discs on a human and making it work would have been interesting in the movie?
Right, right. You have Red Sonja there strapped down in an X. She's struggling against the stuff, and they're like, "I'm going to put this on you, and it's going to
But
control you, and then you would
but
tell me what
first,
I want to know."
but first, let me demonstrate this on your one of your
On your
companions.
friends. Yeah,
Yeah,
right, right.
then the movie gives me a reason to be interested and to have
Then
feelings about what's going on.
and then she breaks free, and then it's like now she has to try and save her friend, and you discover that you just remove the control thing. They're not controlled anymore, so she doesn't have to kill her friends. She can save them. You know,
Mhm.
stakes, setup, payoff. What a weird idea. But no, the reason I'm bringing this up is that the villain decided he's going to basically run these gladiators through fight after fight after fight until they're all dead, and she has forced to watch all of her friends die, so that she will give up the information, which is not even a bad villain plan,
Mhm.
right? But he's got her down there in the freaking arena. It's like why aren't you forcing her to stay up in the stands and watch it with you like a bastard, right? And then how is he doing it? He unleashed horsemen on them. Now, is that a bad idea? No, of course you unleash horsemen on your footmen. Watch them struggle. But it's horsemen in a tiny arena with an open gap.
Yeah.
Horses of that type, whether they be light, heavy, war horse, doesn't matter. Work horses. You train horses from birth. And in the ancient world, you often train the rider as well. Those
Mhm.
animals are hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces of gold or gilt or plate or local talons or silver or salt or whatever other commodity you're using. You would never waste those horses in that arena where they might just trip off the side and die, even to wow the crowd. There's a reason that the Colosseum in Rome is on ground level.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Jesus
And
Christ.
then there's the introductory scene where we have Red Sonja go into the arena for the first time, and she's told she has to fight another gladiator, and they both refuse to fight, which is
No,
again,
no, that's not actually what happens. I know that your brain says that's what happens, but no, what actually happens is they're down there and Red Sonja says, I won't fight you, you're my friend. And she's like, well, I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do because that
well, no,
is her
no,
mindset.
well, no, she doesn't even do that.
Right. And in Gladiator, for a comparison, right, this is the big scene where the German puts up the mask and says, those of us who are about to die honor Caesar, right? Because he's not
Mhm.
a bad guy, but he's a gladiator. He's going to gladiate, right?
It's what he's there to do.
Right. No, she just stands there waiting for the order, right? And since Red Sonja will not perform, the bad guy just has the other person crossbow bolted in the neck.
But what coulda, shoulda happened is she could have stabbed him,
Right. The
and she
thing
could have stabbed
is,
her, and that would have made more sense.
or she could have turned and said, "Well, sorry, I got to fight you," and then they have a fight where Red Sonja doesn't want to fight, and she has to learn to push down that sensitive side to fight for survival, right? Because even friends in this world will not put aside context. You know, she hasn't proven herself to be a good person to them yet, or to inspire them. She's just a person that's there. But two very important things happen here. One is the audience is not outraged when the other gladiator is just killed out of hand. You go to the arena for glories and wonderment, right? Which means people refusing to fight pisses you off.
Hmm.
But watching them be killed out of hand also pisses you off. You wanted to see them fight. You wanted to see something happen, right? Just getting crossbowed in the neck while the king laughs is not impressive. does not encourage grandeur, right? And then Red Sonja goes into the Undercroft where all the other gladiators are, and she's like, "I'm sorry, there was nothing I could do." It's like, bitch, you got your fellow gladiator killed. These people who hate the system and they're mad, and the one guy who loved that woman and I was super sad, should hate you. You got one of them killed. You betrayed your peers in the arena. But no, no, they all magically fall under Sonya's sway because she's going to lead them to freedom. She's going to help them escape. She's so tough and so capable. And it's like, no, no, that's not how that works. When you have a core of people who have all learned to live and work together, who trust each other implicitly because they view themselves as the core group against the world, the outsider that comes in and gets one of you killed is not your friend.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the gist of what's wrong with this movie because there's not really any narrative weight to it. There's something that we could imply is symbolically connected to what's going on with the directors being trans. We can imply that.
There was also another facet that I think doesn't get enough talk that I think is a good finish to this conversation. So Solomon Kane gets it in the neck for being a little cheap.
Mhm,
You know, the giant jelly mold demon at the end. It's kind of right, but Solomon Kane had good production values and used its environment well. Right, they raced around in woodlands that felt like North England. They fought in and met in castles, right? They understood how to present the characters to make you believe in the aesthetics of the setting.
mhm.
Estimate for me, Larry, if you can. How much more money did Red Sonja need? Would you say 1 million and like 6 more months?
Well, this movie was actually, put on the shelf and then dumped out.
Right,
Um, the problem was there was not a strong vision, albeit they did
right.
use 8 men, which I do give the movie
Oh
bonus
yeah,
points for.
it's nice to have some good old Howard ape folk. But what I'm getting at is we start the film at a given fortification during the conquest and suppression of Hyrcania, what's supposed to be Hyrcania,
Mhm,
right? And then we go deeper into the movie. We're taken to civilization. We're now in the city at the and various other parts of the city. Although we don't really get to see a lot of the city, we just
mhm,
jump from location to location. But we're told we're in the city. Okay, fine. And then we go back to the same fortification
mhm.
in the suppression and conquest of Hyrcania, even though that fortification master has said we're making about a league a day or so, right? So it should be
The
a different fortification, right? Or it
mhm.
should be a different dude, or it should be any number of other things, or just a standing camp,
Well, the locations were all boring.
right? That's what I'm saying. The movie is either grievously underfunded or just super lazy because they go to the exact same fortification we started at with the exact same guy. And you know what? It almost escaped. We almost missed one of the dumb things in the movie. Do you remember the old woman?
Uh, yes.
I I I don't care. I don't care how much of a preening prat the villain was. If I'm the dude in charge of a given fortification and have no reason to question the boss, and the boss says kill this old woman, it's like okay, why? Why did he have a change of heart then? It's like, but but she's just an old woman, boss. It's like, sir, You are leading an invasion of genocide into a foreign kingdom. You have killed women, you have killed children, you have killed the elderly, you have press ganged the survivors into slavery. Do not try and tell me you are somehow bothered by killing this one specific woman. It didn't even result in a dramatic reveal of any sort. It was just a kick the dog moment so we could be reminded that the villain is actually a bad guy, even if he's an ineffectual puss.
Hmm. So there are not any public stories that discuss the actual production costs of this movie, which
Mm,
is a very bad sign. And
right.
it's been on the shelf for 3 years, almost 3.5 years.
Wow.
All not very good signs.
Well, here's another thing. Actually, another interesting point. This got shopped around. No. This one on a shelf. Solomon Kane got shopped around to the film convention circuit before it got a theatrical release, right? And I believe you and I have talked about. I was under the impression that it was because they couldn't get distribution, and I've always felt that that might have been intentional to try and block Solomon Kane's primary release to restrict competition in the market, right?
Hmm.
Uh, but there's a movie I want to see that has the exact same problem. I was mentioning the other day. I think you might have heard me talk about it. Have you heard about Good Boy?
Yes.
I really want to see it. It's not going to get a release until October, but I've seen it around. I thought it was on the high seas. It turns out it's not. It's been shopped around to conventions. So like critical reviewers and the like are getting to see it first because they go to all the fancy conventions.
Hmm.
So it can have an October release, and it's like I get it. Like my brain says, yeah, you release a horror movie for Halloween, that makes sense. But I I really don't like that it's it's like can you not distribute? Can you not put it out now? You're putting it on Shutter. Give it to me now. What's the problem? Right? I honestly think that if a film gets put on the shelf or is held back for a number of years, it harms the film.
So this movie production originally started in 2012.
What are we to presume? The pandemic interfered?
Oh no. 2012. Then it started again in 2015. Then it started again in 2018. Brian Singer was attached.
So that sounds
Then
like a lot. That sounds like a lot of we can't find money.
well, no. It had money with Brian Singer, and then Brian Singer got accused of raping some men.
Right.
And then it bounced to another production and another and another. So it had a bad production, and it clearly showed.
Yeah, that sounds not great.
And again, this was a movie that if you wanted to have made this, here we go. I found something here. The original budget producers wanted to do was 100 million. There are several people who do forensic estimates are claiming this movie had somewhere between 10 and 15 million in its production.
Okay.
So I don't know what money it would have taken to fix this because I don't think the problems were all money.
I mean, at that point, you basically have the interesting question of, if not money, what? What was the problem? Where were the
Well,
problems?
well, the problem is vision. They didn't know what they were doing because you could have done this as a $15 million gritty film. You smash Heart open. You have Sonya. A whole bunch of people are dead around her, but she's wounded, and some men have like chains wrapped around her arms and her legs, and they're dragging her down, and she's screaming like some sort of a feral animal.
Oh
That
yeah.
that's how you hook. That's how you hook people in, right there.
I mean, look. You have her chained up. They're dragging her around. They think they've got her. Everybody's tired, pissed off, annoyed. You're bringing her to the bad guy. He's like, "What's this?" And they explain that they've captured this wild woman, right? And then you just have her Evander Holyfield someone,
Oh
right?
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. That's how you make that movie work. So it didn't have any budget, didn't have any cast of note, and there wasn't really anybody who was who really had juice for this film. So it's not good, and you shouldn't see it. We only saw it because we do this show for however many of you show up to watch it.
Well, I mean, also we're low key Howard fans, and we are
Yeah,
idealistic enough to hope. We
yeah.
we literally are the Hawkeye meme. Don't do that. Don't give me hope.
So we want to do something that I always talk about how we should do it. We never end up doing it. Terrence Stamp died today.
Sadness.
Terrence Stamp, most famously known for among his many great works, is Zod and Chancellor Valorum from the Star Wars movies.
Oh shit, that was Chancellor Alarm, wasn't it?
Yeah. Um, we also had something that's I'm going to report this more positive. Apparently, Julie Newmar is still fucking alive at 92. Do you know who Julie Newmar is?
I do, and I feel the need to say something, and I'm sorry if this sounds uncouth to a very refined elder woman. I'd hit it. No. Okay, so weird random short story. Um my folks used to joke that my dad's only other love was Betty Boop. Okay. Right? But Betty
I
Boop's
mean,
a cartoon character, who
that's
cares?
a classy choice. That's
Right.
classy.
But my mom used to say that it didn't matter how old Catherine Hepburn got, she was still always beautiful. And I agree.
Mm.
Gorgeous woman, wonderful personality, nothing but respect. In that same sense, I'm sure that there are other Elviras in training, but like everyone in my household, we were like, Elvira's hot. There's no denying it. Doesn't matter what your orientation is. Elvira is your mistress of the dark. You just abide it. You
So,
just
uh,
accept.
so I want to say something funny about that.
Right.
So my mother worked in a decorating adjacent industry,
Uh-huh.
and she was with several of her friends who were of a homosexual acquaintanceship because that was the nature of the decorating industry at the time.
That's what the style is. Not...
And I was like maybe 10 or 11, and one of them said to her, like, there's two reactions a boy has when they see Elvira for the first time. One is clearly the heterosexual reaction, and the other is the homosexual reaction. And your son had the heterosexual one.
Right. Right. Um. But the reason I bring this up is if you are a fan of classic Batman, and everybody always debates who was the best Catwoman. I freely admit, although once she got truly ancient, it was probably less of a I'd hit that and more of a I'd shake her hand kind of thing. Uh,
Mhm, mhm.
uh Eartha Kitt, smoking hot, no question, right? Uh, but like I cannot deny, man, Julie Newmar was solid with it, and still looks gorgeous to this day. right? So I
Mm-hmm.
don't think, like I say, it might come off as a little disrespectful, but it is really just with a deep and abiding respect. It's like, Julie, you still got it, and I would try. I know you'd
Yeah.
refuse, but I would give it a shot.
I mean, she is an attractive woman for her age, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I want to have a little bit of an intelligent, thoughtful conversation about something. Let me
Okay.
pull
I
up
mean,
the
is this
right
about how we
window.
should all kneel before Zod?
No, no, it's not about
Okay.
kneeling before Zod.
Well, because
It is
I actually agree with Doomcock. Today, if no other day, it is acceptable to kneel before Zod.
but I just wanted to talk about this thing. So the bottom image is the titular Mighty Nine, who are going to be getting a show on Amazon, and up there is, I believe, it's Raceland and the boys. Even though
Yeah,
one of the boys is a female paladin type.
yeah,
Uh,
that's the guys from Dragonlance.
it's the guys from Dragonlance, and I was wanting to discuss why the Mighty Nine are bad as an artistic composition compared to the classic sword and sorcery image. Because the one down there is clearly bad.
Well, first of all, can you make it bigger? Because right now it is a smaller image.
You're wanting me to embiggen it?
Yeah, can you even biggen it for the smallest eyes?
1 second. This is as
Okay,
embiggened as I can get it.
as embiggened as it gets. All right, so let's
Let,
talk.
let,
I
let's
mean,
talk about the OG first.
right?
The first thing about this image is these characters are all in dynamic action poses.
Yes,
They're
it
all
is.
doing something.
I want to say it's a Clyde Caldwell who is an excellent D&D artist back in the day. One of the best. But I want to I actually want to propose the adversarial opinion, not because I'm going to support that Mighty Number Nine is somehow better. I just want to, piss off the fanboys by saying, "Hi, yes, it's a picture of Dragonlance. Yes, it is traditional. No, no one gives a shit about Dragonlance."
I mean, I actually think the Heroes of the Lands campaign was a good campaign, but its consequences on the hobby have not been all good.
That that is more or less the truth of it. Individual characters, Tannis Half Elven, Raceland, etc., might have good arcs and might have their fans, but as a collective, does anyone care about the heroes of the Lance? No, because while Tracy Hickman and Margaret Wise might be uh massively important contributors to D&D as a concept, the fact of the matter is that it's a billion books of travel log of
Hmm?
a magical war that kind of happens, and then when that is converted to an adventure, it is way less interesting because I, as an adventurer, do not want to play the heroes of the Lance. Put me in the world of Dragonlance. Let me wander around and immerse myself in it, but do not expect me to put up with fucking Kender. Okay?
I mean,
But it's
look.
Tasselfoot. Everybody loves Tasselfoot. I would love to see Tasselfoot hung upside down and lowered into a pool of salt water until he pickles.
But let's go back to the art here. So
Yeah,
first of all, the colors are all distinctive. The
right,
colors are all distinctive, and every character has a strong color palette of their own that not only fits but fits within the larger composition.
right.
Um, is there anything else from the visual art side I'm missing in describing why this is a good piece of art?
All right, we're gonna cover this from a weird angle, but it's gonna be fun because we get to do the racism time, even though we don't have the banner.
Mm,
Okay, there was a bunch of argumentation about why are fighting games racist because fighting games seem to rely on stereotypes, and rather than deny it, the designers, I want to say it was for Street Fighter at the time,
mm,
or Killer Instinct, came forward and actually leaned into it and said because of silhouetting. and your brain goes, "What?" And it's like Thunder, the Native American chief in Killer
Yeah.
Instinct, right, is a big guy. He's got broad shoulders and he's got that feather on his head, and he is the only guy with that specific body type of all
Yep.
the characters in that game. So the computer
And
has
that's going to be an important. That's going to be an important point for later.
right, that character. There's no way to misidentify that character in his silhouette, and therefore you know exactly who you're fighting when you look at him in game. When you look at this rogue up front, and you look at uh we just said his name a bunch of times, Raceland there in the background.
Raisman.
They are both wearing hoods. They are both wearing either capes, but one of them is clearly wearing a robe, and it is brown, and it is sort of
Hmm.
the all-enclosing wizard profile. The other one
Yeah.
has the knife and the sword, and is very clearly, I'm a rogue, I'm a thief, I'm a stab a dude, right?
Yeah.
When you look at the paladin woman, whose name I can't recall, I don't think it's Goldmoon, uh, Antanis Half-Elven, from the feathers on the bow to the actual equipment used, there is a clearly defined difference in the characters. They come from different regions, they have different jobs, they have different experiential levels,
Hmm.
right?
Especially that goddamn Raceland.
Right. They are very clearly doing different things in this scene, which I also, to be entirely contextual, I think that the two pictures are actually about equal in purpose because they're both beauty shots. These are characters
Yeah.
posing for the camera. These are not characters actually doing a damn
Yeah.
thing.
But one is better because the
Right.
characters are in a
If
dynamic pose.
we if we scroll down to our lower, because now we're gonna
Well,
dig into this.
also before we do that, I also want to
Okay.
say the background in the Dragonlance picture is far
Right.
superior.
Well, here's the thing. It's still minimalist, but it has that classical actual art thing of a progressively more blue, very much
Yeah.
like how the eye perceives color sort of thing. So there's a sense of distance because that pillar up front, we have no clue what the heck that means, what that's doing there. And they're surrounded by trees, fine. But then it's like there are more and more trees going back.
Yeah.
So that terrain is implicitly infinite. It's not a void, there's more things back there.
Yeah. Now we're gonna look at this other picture. So the first things first. Uh, your orc, and your female barbarian. The only thing you could really see that's different from the two of their designs is female barbarian has bigger muscles than the male orc warrior, which is kind of disappointing. You have the female monk, very similar profile to the female purple, whatever the heck that is, character. I guess
What
it's a
you mean on
tiefling.
the far left?
No, I was talking about the monk who's in between the barbarian woman, the orc guy, and the tiefling sorcerer.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. Warlock.
Yeah, very similar body type. The only reason you might think they're different is because of the coverage on the warlock's arms.
I mean, the horns also are the big giveaway.
Yeah, but I mean they're very similar body typing. Basically, there's very few details that differentiate the bodies, but the two characters on the two ends, similar height, similar body shape.
Right.
So so the characters aren't really diverse. You got the
But
little goblin thing
so
down
my
there.
god, you can't say they're not diverse, Larry.
Well, they're not visually diverse.
Right. No.
Albeit we got a goblin.
Right.
We should always appreciate when we get a goblin in the scene.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. So the Mighty Number Nine is a campaign by Critical Role. So it is similar to Vox Machina, but it is their B team. Okay, but fine, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, Before Vox Machina was a itch in somebody's pants, people were doing animatics of this group, Why?
Yes.
Because Vox Machina came first, and it took them longer to work out the bugs of what they were doing.
Hmm.
So when they did this campaign was more put together within the range of what is put together for a Matt Mercer led property.
Which is not
Um,
a real D&D campaign.
well, it uses a base structure of the same quintessential build every time, and they have the same almost stock characters with kind of goofy personalities. Um, but there are tense moments. There is meaningful characterization, but the worst character is the tiefling. She's not sexy, but she is obnoxiously bubbly, and people take that as a positive, right? Whereas the character of Not the Goblin, right, is the best character. First and foremost, played by a man, doesn't matter, but the character's female. Why is that important? Because you don't know it for a great length of story. The reason they're all wrapped up and bandaged up is to hide their appearance, so that people don't put together they're a goblin. They spend the first part of several adventures essentially pretending to be a halfling, which in a D&D world makes sense if you're a goblin trying to go legit, and a
People just
female
don't want
goblin
to.
at that.
And look, look, look. I mean, who hasn't gone into the dungeon to collect a bag full of goblin ears?
Exactly. Exactly. Um but the half orc's not bad. Bit of a twink, but not bad. Female barbarian is not a terrible character, but this is now about characterization. If we're
We're
talking
talking
about
just. You're just talking
yeah,
about just the design.
if we're talking about design and visuals, yes, the first problem is they're all just standing there. So they also are just posing for the picture. We just walked in the door. Here we are, guys.
But it's not a
Um
dynamic pose.
right. Nor are they all interacting in a believable format. They're all just looking at each other in some fashion, right?
They're
It's
looking at the
not
guy who's painting the picture, and it's off-putting.
well. See, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. Think about how much more dynamism there would be if the warlock tiefling was doing something funky with their powers, right? And it was actually agitating one of these people,
Yeah,
right? Instantly you have a relationship. Instantly you have an emotional context. There's no emotional context. These people are just like, "Oh, you're there. Oh, how are you?" Um, even if there
ne-
are interesting visuals, they don't use them in an interesting fashion,
next, I want
right?
to talk about the use of color. Uh,
Oh, you mean the fact that it's more pastel slop because the modern D&D is pastel?
yeah,
Yeah, everybody's
it's
from
it's
Candyland, and I just want to weigh in real quick. One more thing, that is not a furbog, ladies and gentlemen. Furbog are Irish giants. They're red bearded. They stand about 8 foot tall. That is somebody's Candyland character, and the more Watsy tries to insist that Furbog are cutesy, multicolored rainbow people, the more I hate it. Find a different culture to shit on. There are Irish people among you.
but the thing I don't like about this is everybody's brown except for the elfy gianty looking guy there who's got the pastel colors.
That's the Furbog, supposedly.
Yeah, but no. Uh, the tiefling is wearing like washed out purple, but the
It's all
monk
blue.
gets an.
The,
I mean, it's kind of purple.
the characters had, we assume, some kind of art, like little head avatars, but most of the visuals seem to be from those animatics people did. And that's the thing, is that there's no originality in this material. It's just a by the numbers, we're gonna do a show. Aren't you
Mm.
excited? Um
But now I want to also go
but
look at the background here. There's just a
well,
bunch of mountains and nothing behind them.
right. It's a barren thing. It's like, well, there's some there's some trees and there's a mountain and there's some bushes, but it's like, yes, but there's nothing going on back there that I want to see more
Whereas
of.
if we look at the other picture, that piece of stonework there, that could be a ruin.
Right.
They could be guarding the ruin from something,
Could
or they
it
could have activated a trap and monsters could
it
be coming.
It could be some kind of way tower that's just supposed to design to tell travelers where you are. Um,
Yeah,
but with that in mind, go back down for a minute. Something that I brought up earlier, so we'll get back to. Where are these people from? What are their divergent cultures?
because the clothes all look pretty similar again, except for the furbolgs. He's the
Except
only one whose clothes seem really
ex-
different.
except for the Frog and the Goblin, because the Goblin is very much I'm a rogue. I do rogue thing, right? You would not realize that the guy there in the fucking trench coat is some kind of magecraft type,
Other than the book
right? Other
and
than
the
the book,
cat. And the
right?
cat. The cat's the familiar.
Right. The Tiefling looks like she just stepped out of her house, right? Generic cape, generic dress, generic shawl, right? And then the monk, the barbarian, and whatever the fuck the half orc are as generic fighter type as you can get, interchangeable fighter type. And then somebody says, but one of them has a one-handed sword, and the other one has a two-handed sword. Get fucked.
I mean,
Okay.
you can use either of those swords as one-handed swords.
But here's the thing: if we look at the top, that rogue has a knife and a longsword, but
Yep,
is using it differently than
yep,
the paladin who's holding her longsword in two hands, right?
yep.
And is
But
again
also,
different.
also
Go
you can
ahead.
see though the paladin's sword is designed to be used with two hands,
Right,
whereas,
and she has her scabbard there on a hanger, right?
mhm,
Which is technically also a weapon as well, but that's neither here nor there. And it's still different again from Tanis Half Elf in there, who's reaching for an arrow and he's got his bow at the ready.
and
Right,
he has a sword also.
right. We have monk with stick, we have orc with sword, we have barbarian with big sword, but there is no sense of how do these people fight? How do these people function or interact? How are they going to support each other? Right? Again, Tanis is in the back. Raistlin is even way in the back, right?
Because somebody's got a D4 for hit dice, and he's not
Right,
getting anywhere near the front.
right. The paladin is at the ready. She's like, "Come and get it," and the rogue is like, "I'm going in." You have a sense of how these people fight, what they fight with, what it means. The closest they get to that in the lower picture is the fact the orc doesn't have a sheath on his blade. He just carries it on his shoulder, which is there's some personality there, not a lot,
It's
because
not
they didn't
good.
because they didn't let him have a personality, right? Well, the wizard's reading a book. It's like, yeah, normals read books too.
The only one of the characters in that picture that really has personality is the goblin.
And to a lesser extent, the tiefling. The thing is that the tiefling's personality is so stock with how culture has approached tiefling to this point that it is almost a subversion if you play a tiefling straight. And I don't mean that sexually, people. I mean that straight, as in not trying to subvert what a tiefling is.
But I want to play a lawful good paladin tiefling.
Okay.
That's
So tell me, how long were you at the circus?
well, I was at the circus until they sold me to the temple.
Right, and then the monks taught you about God.
Yes.
Okay, until that is, of course, you met the X Men. Look, I will stand by it, and I will scream it from the rooftops till the day I die. If you want to know how a tiefling should be played, Kurt Wagner is a tiefling.
That's how you
Okay,
play a lawful good tiefling.
right, he's the good boy. And the thing is that he is not without tragedy. He would love to be accepted. He would love to have significant others. He would love to have a sense of family that isn't the found family. But you know what? He has decided, I'm not going to let those things hold me back. I'm going to make other people's lives better. That's how you be the good guy tiefling, right? If you want
Mhm.
to be a darker, angrier good guy tiefling, that's fine. Just don't be the obnoxious twink tiefling, because nobody wants that, and that doesn't work in the kind of fantasy world that a D&D suggests. And oddly enough, Larry, this brings us back to a conversation we're having just before game. I'm sorry, Mr. Serrano. God does not have a say in whether or not you can play tieflings.
But I brought this up because some people were talking about this artwork, and I'm just going like, man,
Well,
that's
they
really bad artwork.
well they weren't even talking about this artwork, although that is artwork that was being talked about, because that's the image currently be using for the reject modernity, embrace tradition meme. What they're actually talking about is the life of a showgirl art, which if you can find for the
Give me a
people,
second. Give me a
that's gonna
second.
be that's gonna be a trip.
But what surprised me is I found out when the thing first came out and became a, a, a controversy that it's a tie-in for a Taylor Swift song.
Yep, which is trash. Not because Taylor Swift is necessarily trash. If you like Taylor Swift, go with God. But D&D should not have pop song tie-ins. That's a bad idea.
It is not good. No, here we go. Pull this over here. Very good. Now I've got this over here. Was that the window I had it in? No, I had it in this window. Here it is. So first of all, this is a bad facial design.
Yeah,
The nose, the mouth, all the facial proportions are wrong.
I'm
Uh,
I'm
the
deeply
eyes are
amused.
wrong.
I'm deeply amused by people that compare it to that crazy lady that attacked the cop with a knife in that shoulder cam footage.
Hmm.
And and here's the thing: as you lay out what's wrong with this, it's almost not wrong actually. If the showgirl in question is actually not a person, if it's actually a monster of some sort. But then the problem is this shouldn't be your go-to art for this piece,
No.
right? For this adventure, for this module, for this whatever the fuck tie-in it is, this should not have been your starting place.
Now let's look at the showgirl in the back here. She's got one leg that's kind of off at a weird angle. Looks like her shoe's falling off. Her arm's sticking up there. Her other arm's there. So how? And it looks like her leg is bent over like this. So how does the body mechanics of that one in the back work?
I think the implication is that she is somehow making the but I don't think she can stand on that leg.
No, that is not the correct drawing at all.
I mean, this
So
is why some people are debating whether or not it's AI, which you know what, it might be, but I can't know.
um I think there may be AI elements in it. Because I mean if you look at the hand, the one in the background, hand's not good.
Right.
Also, we have this person who's under the table. You can't tell anything about the person's attire. It's really
It,
difficult to tell, so you don't know
frankly, it,
who this
frankly,
is.
frankly, it looks like he's a modern kid in a T-shirt.
Yeah, which is confusing to say the least.
Yeah.
Now, unlike the previous modern D&D artwork we talked about, well, this one has the pastels that we both think are being overused. At least the pastels are being used appropriately in the composition.
Right.
So this has one thing the other image doesn't. The other image at least has competently drawn figures. These are not competently drawn. But you know the old story your mother used to tell you: don't judge a book by its cover. Why the fuck do you think they spend so much money on cover art for books? It's because they
Right.
want you to judge a book by its cover. And this is for an adventure module.
Well, here's the thing. You shouldn't. The reason you shouldn't judge a book by its cover is because you shouldn't assume that if the art is good, the book inside is good. But
Right.
they've got it backwards, because what it is that instead of having a terrible cover and potentially good stuff inside, you want to have a good cover so that people are interested enough to go, you know what? I want to see more. And then they pick it up and they open it and there are words inside. And the words are supposed to be good.
Yeah. And oh, also the showgirl at the front. Look at the back of her hairstyle there. That's just weird.
Look, of all the things that are wrong in this, and I know people have been saying showgirls aren't D&D. It's like, showgirls could be. I want to know, where the fuck did she get high heels? And before somebody
Also,
says, "Oh, but they had high heels," it's like, no, no, no. In the 17th century,
yeah,
men wore high heels, but they were still square.
yeah,
That is a stiletto pump.
and that is relatively new.
Yeah.
So also, you're having your showgirl dancers, right? That's not a wrong adventure hook. It could be a good adventure hook, but why are they doing table dancing? Why aren't they on the stage?
I mean,
It doesn't
again,
make sense.
the table dancing is actually not a problem for me. Here's the thing. I'm gonna do some deep dive. I'm gonna do some deep dig. There is an old Warhammer fantasy story that was also represented in mechanics in a game called Mordheim and an old Warhammer Fantasy RPGs
Hmm.
called the Carnival of Chaos. It's a Zench controlled or influenced carnival that travels to town, and it causes change, which is Zench's thing. But that change always comes in horrific mutation and destruction. But then it rolls on to the next town before people catch up to it. So it's this sort of fairy tale evil that exists, the very much Ray Bradbury dark carnival angle, right?
Hmm.
If that was the story, right? This troupe rolls in, they have their tents, they do their showgirls, it's table dancing, and it's exotic and mysterious, and it draws people in, and then you find out that they're a bunch of doppelgangers,
Yeah,
right? Fine,
doppelgangers
go.
inside a mimic building.
Right. I'm down. Go with it. The thing is, okay, we have not read the material yet. Could be good, but I doubt it. WotC has a bad track record of late, right? But the visuals they've tried to share are just so grievously poor for grabbing people, right?
Hmm.
Because here's the thing, even the context is not bad. You take that kid in the corner, you make that an adventurer of some sort. You show them in the armor, you show them with the
Hmm.
gear, right? Trying to hold this table back as the table dancer leaps onto the table and is gonna get him. It's like, okay, but it's like, how
That
how do
that
you
has
present
your
that?
attention.
It's like, well, okay, how do you present it? How do you sell the danger? Well, first of all, instead of giving her a stiletto, give her a knife. Give her a big old dagger,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Or here's the thing: have that weird fucking face and have that appearance, but like transform the arm into some kind of tentacle ending in a giant hook or a claw, like she's a harpy or a hag, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because now you've got this element of shapeshifting going on. It's like, oh, so like she looked normal 5 minutes ago, and now she looks weird. Okay, okay, I can go with this. We have I can't speak for everyone, obviously, in the world. I can't speak for every idiot out there, but I don't think that in the gaming sphere, the we collective have ever had a problem with some of the suppositions of a piece. Okay, only that fraction of extra effort to give it just enough context to give a suspension of disbelief is lacking, right? Good example, even though it's dumb. I enjoyed Dimension 20's Crown of Candy. right? Because I was watching it with friends, and it's like, you know what? This isn't half bad. They made me care about candy people in Candyland. That's kind of dumb, right? But I never felt an interest towards the Wendy's D&D tie-in.
Hmm.
I was like, but that's Wendy's. That's a fast food. That's like Candyland. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to play it. I'll watch somebody play Candyland and be impressed with what they did, but I don't want to play in Candyland. If I did, I would have made my own Candyland. I wouldn't buy Candyland, right?
Yeah.
And and that brings us back around to, like, who is this for? What is the audience? Because if the audience is not for me, then tell me exactly who actually wanted to buy uh orcs and humans having romantic dalliances in a coffee shop. Because I bet your money, the money you've already lost, it didn't earn. Because the people who lauded it didn't buy it, and the people who
Hmm.
didn't want it didn't buy it. And no one's gonna buy this. It is gonna fail like Radiant Citadel failed.
Hmm. But D&D is hiding that failure behind their sales model.
Which is becoming a lifestyle model. It's a lifestyle brand now. So people will buy it because they like Taylor Swift. It's like, yeah, but you didn't tell us it was Taylor Swift. In fact, you know what would have been a much better cover for this piece if you're going to do a Taylor Swift tie-in with D&D? Let's assume for a moment that I am the head of art design, okay?
Hmm.
You are the artist. Larry, I want you to paint me a painting, okay, of Taylor Swift in some kind of gauzy adventurer gear, right? Welcoming us into the venue, right?
So we're getting Taylor Swift in like a mithril mail looking shirt
Yeah,
and a
yeah,
fur cape.
yeah. We'll put her right on the cover, invite everybody in, right? And she's literally inviting us into an adventure called A Showgirl's Life.
Yeah. So I want to end the show today with one last bit of review. Have you been watching the amazing Digital Circus?
I have not, but I did see the title for their last episode, and I was halfway interested because it's literally everyone gets guns.
Yes. So I watched the episode and I've been watching the show. So basically the premise is hey, you wake up in a virtual reality and you're in a jester outfit and there's a bunch of wacky characters and things are kind of existential horror. And there's a seemingly all-powerful computer entity or god entity called Kane who directs what you do and he decides what you're doing. And in this week's episode, Kane was like, "Fuck it, I'm just giving all of you guns." And everybody broke up into little teams. Now, Pomni, our audience viewpoint character, has been had a good episode where she's had an arc where she's been buddy buddy with everybody, where she's got to learn their inner things. And the last character for her to do that with is the sarcastic, angry, violent rabbit. Basically, OG Bugs Bunny, but made as a modern cartoon character. I'm talking like the original Bugs Bunny before Bugs Bunny got over as
the
a
the
character. Bugs
the
Bunny,
the rubber hose Bugs Bunny.
yeah, that guy. And so Pomni decides to hang out with him, and he's like, "Hey, listen, kid, none of this matters. So why just be a good girl when you can just be evil and fucking shoot everybody?" And she gets in on all of that and going around and shooting some people. They also have a crazy king character who cures one of the characters of one of their losses of life points, which means he can hack the game somehow. And there's now a whole fan theory about how he's able to the Kane who runs the game, which is kind of wild. Um, and the whole thing was about the Raggedy Ann characters, like going, maybe I'm overbearing and pushy and I drive people away. And Pomni's like going, no, it's not that, but we need to work on our stuff. But the rabbit character's freaking out because anybody he's got close to has went crazy and turned into a digital abomination that had to be put down. And that was the episode. The episode was the slow decline into madness of one of the characters. And there are only 3 more episodes of the show left. It's only going to be a 12-season show, a 12-episode season. I personally think it'd be great if it was a 12-season show, but
I mean, who knows?
they had one episode where a character who's based around the comedy and tragedy mask ended up having to be get bringing everybody back to being a fast food manager, where she was the fast food manager and they were the employees. Um, Pomni's had to deal with the fact that there are NPCs that she's had relationships with, and those all get wiped, and the NPCs become entirely different people the next time they show up.
Well,
It's a good show. I recommend it,
well,
and it's on YouTube.
well. On that note, you mentioned one of the characters is named Kane. You may have noticed that my title for the show is Kane Hunter, and I wish to explain why. So,
Mm.
as the people might know, I'm a World of Darkness nerd, and this does mean that I have played the old World of Darkness back in the Masquerade, where they used biblical lore as their foundation for vampires. So, vampires are descended from Cain, the first murderer. I discovered on the Twitter space on the random, somebody made a comment about their fellowship, their branch of Christianity, that struck me. Quote, there are members of my church who are convinced that Bigfoot is actually Cain, the first murderer, cursed to live on Earth till doomsday. At which point my friend Moody said that was quite an interpretation. I said I could go on a tear about like how there are so many uneducated American Christians, but I'm not going to. I just like the idea that after creating Kindred and so on, Cain was like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm going into the woods, and you can just imagine someone being like, but when are you coming back? And Cain being like, when I feel like it. And now he's just naked, covered in hair, and wandering from forest to forest like a bear in the woods.
I mean, if you're a gangrel with enough fortitude, you could be the
Well,
the Bigfoot.
so here's the thing. Here's the thing. My friend Moody said this is canon now, and I said, I said, so Neonate, has anyone ever seen Kane? I'm like, Elder Gangrel. I saw Kane once, and everybody leans in attentively, and the other Gangrel's like, yeah, he was eating out of a dumpster behind a Waffle House and threw a shoe at me. And then Neonate's like, I think that was just a hobo, and the Elder Gangrel's like, I ain't gonna judge Kane for what he does with his on life.
All
so
right.
So I posit that like cryptid hunters looking for Bigfoot, they're looking for Kane. They're trying to find Kane.
So, gang, this will be our last bootleg stream for a while because what StreamYards uncoolly does is they limit us to 5 total hours, right? So here is my chicanerous trick. We do our 2 hour stream, which will be on pull up the calendar, which will be on the 22nd. Then we do another 2 hour stream on the 29th. Then we do another 2 hour stream on the 5th, which is technically 6, but they don't cut you off midway. And then we'll have to do a bootleg stream again on the 12th because our time re-ups on the 19th. So I got a month to figure out how to use one of these bootleg ass platforms. But hey,
Look,
this time the sound wasn't a problem.
look, we poor. One of these days, we will figure out like how to get the money together to actually support being on a service, and then I don't
Yeah,
think we'll have any of these problems at all. Of course, that would
yeah.
involve people actually watching, and I've referred to the people several times. I hope the people are out there,
I mean,
but
we get some views.
Yeah, but like if we started having more views, enough views to support going in on a thing, we could do that, but we have not done.
We have not. No. Well, anyway, I am gonna end the stream. So good night, everybody.